All right, everyone. Please welcome onto the podcast today for his first appearance, Prashanth Southekal. He is the managing principal for DBP Institute and a longtime instructor for us here at TDWI. I'm very excited to talk with him today about data engineering for analytics and AI. It's a part of the coursework that he will be teaching at TDWI Orlando in November, coming up in just a couple weeks, actually. But very excited to talk with you today, Prashanth. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me. How are you doing today? And if you don't mind, maybe give a little bit of background about yourself so that the audience can get to know you a little bit better.
Thanks, Andy. It's a pleasure to talk to you and great to be associated with TDWI for almost 7, 8 years, I believe. I started associating myself as an instructor for TDWI in 2017, 2018, and so far it's been great working with the team and most importantly the participants who come for all the TDWI sessions and conferences. So it's a honor, it's a pleasure, it's a blessing to be part of TDWI. And again, as you said, my full name is Prashanth Southekal. I'm the managing principal of DBP Institute, which is data analytics consulting and an education company. I've consulted for over 100 different companies, including some big and popular logos like Apple, P&G, and so on. But at the same time, some small companies as well, which are about 2 to 3 million in revenue. But what I have seen in my consulting world, whether it's the big companies or the small companies, the fundamental question or the basic question which I get from my clients is how do we get value out of digital data analytics and AI? The size, complexity, and scale might change, but the fundamental question, the basic question they have is how do we get value out of data analytics, which could be growth, which could be cost reduction, which could be risk mitigation, so on and so forth. So that's my first hat, which I do, where I've consulted for over 100 companies, probably from Japan to US, Canada. The second thing which I do is education, because what I've seen in my consulting engagements is the biggest enabler for change is actually educations or upskilling. So you might have the greatest data, the greatest tools, but if you're not able to educate your stakeholders on how to use it effectively, then the job is practically half done. So that's where I put my second hat, where I'm an instructor, where I'm instructor at TDWI. I'm also an adjunct professor at IE Business School in Madrid. So twice a year, I'm based out of Madrid. By the way, I live in Calgary, Canada. But twice a year, I teach for the MBA program at IE Business School. Apart from TDWI, I'm also a corporate trainer. I'm also a trainer for very similar organizations like TDWI, which includes AFP, Association for Finance Professionals, as well. So its education has been, and of course, writing. I've written these 3 books behind me, including one of the most popular books on data quality, published by John Wiley. So writing, teaching, educating, all has been integral part of my work, which I do. So overall, these are the 2 things which I do, which is consulting. Number 2, training.
Well, that's fantastic. And folks, you can see why Prashanth is such an integral part of the TDWI instructors that we have with all that experience. With your wealth of knowledge and the years that you've put in to your career, can you explain a little bit of how the space has evolved and maybe how you're analyzing the market where it stands currently?
Yeah. I started almost like 30 years back after graduating from the university. And when I started my career in the technology space, I started as a programmer, writing C code, and later, little bit, I was also moved to the SAP team where I used to write code in an SAP language called ABAP. Then things I started moving up the chain and moving up the ladder in all the companies. So I become like a team lead, then a project manager, then an architect, program manager, and all those things. So that's all the designation used to work. Of course, I got upskilled as well. I did my MBA, I did my PhD, I worked in different companies, and so on and so forth. So that's how my designation moved. But what I see from the work perspective was I was getting closer and closer to where the impact of digital data and analytics and even AI these days was felt. That was on the business side. So these days, most of the engagements which I do on the consulting side and even on training, for example, comes from the business people. They reach out to me and say, "Hey, Prashanth, help us get more value out of data analytics, AI, and so on and so forth." So that's how my career has moved more from right from technology when I started to more towards business, which is basically mapping the technology to the business needs. How we can effectively get it done. Of course, there are so many ways to make it happen. So every company's needs are different, their capabilities are different, their maturity levels are different. So it's not like one size fits all. You need to understand their needs and craft a solution that works for them, and in a very incremental and an iterative fashion. To sum it up in one line, Andy, so what I have seen in the industry these days is the business playing a big role in leveraging technology for improved business performance, and the CFO's office in particular has been taking more lead in leveraging technology, and so the CFOs have especially moved away from a regulatory or moving away from regulatory and reporting function to a strategic function as well. So that's what I have been saying, because 10-15 years back, most of the gigs which I used to get was from the CIO's office, but these days most of the gigs which I'm getting is from the CFO's office. So that's what I have seen personally. I don't know what others are saying, but this is what I've seen. Of course, I have upskilled myself to suit more towards the CFO's office as well, to talk their language, to talk their value proposition, and so on and so forth. But of late, to summarize in one line, the industry has moved, the technology has moved closer to business. Business has been taking more lead in that. And my role has been more towards tailoring myself for the technology solutions to the CFO's challenges.
With all of the knowledge and experience that you have, I'm assuming some of that's going to come out in this course around data engineering for analytics and AI. And I was reading the description, and in that you mentioned that most of the time and cost in AI projects specifically goes towards data engineering. So why is that the case, and what surprises people most when they see this sort of effort involved?
Yeah, that's true, Andy. Like what I have seen in the industry is, and even research confirms that almost like more 80% of the work involved in data and analytics and AI project is on data preparation, which includes data engineering as well. Even in my book, which was published by John Wiley on data quality, I emphasize that, and I even did some research and study to show that almost like 80% of the work in data analytics and AI projects is on data preparation. So now the question is why? Why do companies spend so much of time in this data engineering exercise? So if you look at the way data has been captured, it is inherently captured for two main reasons: for operations and for compliance. Rarely, data is originated and captured from an analytics and AI needs. So what is happening is you're repurposing the data which was captured mainly for operations and compliance and trying to use it for a different reason. So when in the work of repurposing the data from operations and compliance to analytics and AI, a lot of effort will be spent because the needs are very different. So let me give you a simple example on what I mean with this. What I mean by saying you capture it for operations and compliance, and now you want the same data for analytics and AI. Let's take a simple example of a retail company. Everybody is familiar with retail industry because we go and at a minimum we shop in superstore, we go to H&M and all these places. So let's say a customer in a retail company buys an item, and when the company captures the data, which is in the point of sale system, it could be on the item purchased, what is this item is purchasing, the price of the item, the location, sometimes even the customer ID and all those things. And why are they capturing it? Mainly for operational purposes, because I want to use this information to update my inventory, for my accounting purposes, for my payment, and all those things. So the data that is captured for the sale that is happening between the customer and the retail company is mainly for operations, which includes accounting, inventory management, payments, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, the same data is also used for legal and accounting purposes, because every company has to follow accounting standards. Like in US, it's been GAAP. In Canada, we talk about IFRS to comply with accounting standards. There could be industry standards and so on and so forth. So you're using the same data while you're capturing for operational purposes to comply with accounting rules as well. So that's good. Now, what happens? You have been capturing this data to run your operations and compliance. Now, the analytics team or the AI team comes into the picture and says, we want to use this data. Now, you might ask, why? Why do you want to use the data? I want to use this data to predict the future, to see how the sales is happening in the future. Okay, good. Can you use the data which you captured in 2022 to predict what's going to happen in 2027? It's going to be challenging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this data, which is captured for operations and compliance, and further add more attributes. Like my hypothesis says that the sales in 2026 is based on inflation. Probably, who knows, because of tariffs, there is more inflation that's there. Or it could be based on weather, for example. In winter in Canada, things are cold, so people don't generally come for shopping out compared to summer. So weather is a factor. Unemployment is a factor. So I'm going to use this attributes to understand more about how the demand is going to be in 2026. But now the question is, have you captured weather data during operations? Have you captured inflation data during operations? Have you captured unemployment data during running your GAAP or IFRS reports? No, because all those operations and compliance activities, they don't need that information because they're running the business. They're satisfying the regulators. Regulators don't ask what's the weather on a particular day when you're running the business. Now you are capturing. You need all this information to prepare for the future, to predict what's going to happen. So you need a different data sets that has to be embedded to the data which you already have. That's where I say almost like 80% of the effort in data analytics is data preparation. And it's not just about adding new attributes. Most of the data that is captured from operations and compliance is also unstructured data, which I call it as the TAVI data: text, audio, video, and images. So the good thing about TAVI data is quick digitization. For example, I do a maintenance on a pump. Let's say I'm in the oil and gas industry. I do a maintenance on the pump. So I've done this work. Now I take a picture of the maintenance that is done, take a 30-second recording of the pump to show that it has been running, and I upload it in SharePoint. Good. What has happened? You have done your work, and this is what the payment you're going to receive. Now I want to see the predictability, the maintenance thing, when this pump is going to fail. Now I need to have to get the same data about the pump rating, about the RPM and everything, and put it in a structured way so that I can run my regression model. So you have to transform this unstructured data into a structured format so that I get to know what is the independent variable, what are the dependent, what are the confounds, and everything. So in doing all this work, I have to transform the data. I have to label it. I have to structure it. I have to format it, and so on. And that's where 80% of the work in analytics and AI is unstructured data. I also want to add one more point here, Andy. So now this is a problem. So what is the solution? People might generally ask, what is the solution for this? The solution for this is basically get the right attributes. You have to look for the right attributes, which is there. Just having data doesn't mean that you can do analytics and AI. You need the right data. Next, number two, you need the data in the right format. Just because you have petabytes of unstructured data, which is text, audio, video, and images, doesn't mean that you are ready for analytics. You need the data in the right format. That is, it's processed, it is tokenized, it's annotated, so on and so forth, so that you can structure it. And lastly, you need less variation or completeness. So just because I have 500,000 customer records doesn't mean that I can use it. These customer records have to be populated, have to be complete, have to be accurate, have to be timely, and so on and so forth. So this is what I teach in my course, which is like of course it's a 3-hour course, but I can do this whole training for 3 days. But in the interest of time, I'm just giving a 3-hour overview
Yeah,
about how we effectively and get value for my students about how effectively they can use this training.
that's fantastic. I have one quick follow-up for you. Are there any tools out in the market that can help with this process that you're saying, that 80%, or is it still quite a manual process?
No, it is manual for, there is manual work, but there are a lot of tools also which can help you. Like there are tools such as you can use as simple tools like Excel spreadsheets, which can help in data cleansing. There's also some kind of sophisticated tools like you can use from Talent, for example, which I've used, which you can run. There is open source tools like the Python pandas, for example, which you can use for data cleansing. And you can also cut paste the same or upload the file in ChatGPT and say that, hey, tell me about profile this data for me and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of tools which is there, but at the same time, tools are one part of it. And it's your skills as well, because they say that a fool with the tool is still a fool, right? Like you need to know, you need to have the right background, you need to have the right skills so that you use the right tools and get those results. So it has to be a combination of both things. You need the tools, plus you need your skills as well to make it happen.
So diving a little deeper into the coursework, I noticed that the course is covering 4 types of business data and 12 dimensions of data quality. Now, we don't have enough time to cover all of that. Plus, it sounds like that's going to be a major part of the course. So I want to make sure the people that are attending will get that information. But maybe can you call out 1 or 2 of those that are, would be very interesting and maybe even ones that people might underestimate?
Yeah. So, but data comes in different shapes and forms, different flavors. From a data structure perspective, as I said earlier, you can look at the data as unstructured TAVI data, text, audio, video, and images, or you can look at the data in a structured format, like what you see in your Excel spreadsheet, which is all neatly arranged in rows and columns. So from a data structure perspective, it could be the structured data or unstructured data, structured according to predefined schema or format, unstructured, which doesn't have really defined format or schema. You can also look from a security perspective, you can look at the data as open data, like you go to Walmart's website and see where is this head office, what is the financial statement. You can get this data because anybody can get it, or it could be confidential data, like I want to know the salary levels of all the analysts in Walmart. No, you can't get it because only the HR people can get it. Right, so it's confidential data, or it could be restricted data. There is some highly proprietary information like their IP data, and which they don't want to share it publicly, or within the company, only a few people are restricted. So from a security perspective, the data can be open, confidential, or restricted. From in data integration perspective, I tell my clients the data can be again viewed from reference data, which is all about categories, master data, which is all about entities, and transactional data, which is all about events. So you can look at the data from different perspectives, from which angle you are coming. From a structured perspective, technical perspective, from a security perspective, from an integration perspective, you can look at the data from different views. But the most important view of looking at data is from a business perspective. And from a business perspective, how do you look at the data? That's where I said 4 views of looking at data from a business perspective. The first view is zero party data, which is the data about your prospects or your potential counterparties. Like today, I'm starting a business. Say, I want to sell my product and services to the market. So what do? I reach out to many people and they show interest in me, in my product, and then I capture the data and reach out to them tomorrow, next week, so on, so that ultimately I send my product or services to this people. But before they become my customer, all the interaction, all the data I have about them and my interactions with them would be the zero party data. Are they paying me for this? No, but they're potential customers which I want to use it for future business. Same with potential vendors, same with potential employees and everything. So this is all about zero party data where you don't have any kind of a formal relationship with them, but you're assuming sooner or later they'll have some relationship with you and your organization. The second type of data is the first party data. First party data is all the data which you have with your counterparties. For example, let's take a retail company. I'm going to sell this pencil to this company. So I create an order and there's a payment that's going to happen. So all this interaction that's happening between me and my counterparty is captured in a system. And this data is called as the first party data. It could be on orders, it could be on contracts, it could be on remittances, it could be on invoices, so on and so forth. The third type of data is called as the second party data. What is the second party data? It is the data your partners are managing for you. For example, let's take you are selling your Apple and you are selling your MacBook in Best Buy. And a customer walks into Best Buy and he buys this MacBook in Best Buy. So all the data which Best Buy is capturing as part of the sale would be the second party data for you because it's your product, your reseller, which is Best Buy, is selling for you. For Best Buy, of course, it's a first party data, but for you, it is a second party data. Same with Sephora, for example. L'Oreal sells their cosmetics in Sephora stores. So Sephora would be having the first party data. And what is the data? It's all about L'Oreal's product. So L'Oreal would be interested to get that second party data because their products are sold in Sephora stores. So that would be the third type of data, which is the second party data. And the last one is the third party data, which is basically we call it as data products. What is that third party data? For instance, let's say I'm in a retail company and I have a hypothesis which says that sales is dependent on weather. Do I have the complete weather data of all the provinces and all the states and postal codes in US and Canada? No, but there is a company which is selling the weather data. So I'm going to take the weather data and integrate it with my data for the last 5 years, for example, and derive models. So data products are generally the third party data. So when I tell my clients, most of them think that it's a first party data that's important. 100%. I'm not disputing that. But spare a thought to zero party data, second party, and third party data as well. Each one has got pros and cons. It doesn't mean that everybody should be looking at data products or everybody should be looking at only capturing first party data. So there is something depending on your strategy, your risk appetite, so on and so forth. So these are the four types of data you should holistically consider and not restrict yourself with typically the first party data, which I often see with my clients. So that's that's the first part of your question, Andy. Now I'll go to the 12 dimensions of data quality. So what I've done is in my course, this in the interest of time, I have just taken a subset of these 12 dimensions. I'll talk about those 12 dimensions, but I'll be teaching my students 6 of the 12 dimensions, which I call it as the cactus framework. What is that cactus framework? It is basically an acronym for the 12 data or 6 data quality dimensions of the 12. The first one is, first C stands for completeness, whether the data is complete. Number 2 is accuracy, whether the data is accurate. Number 3, one more C, which is consistent. Number 4, T, which is timeliness. Is the data set that is available, is it timely? Fifth one is uniqueness. Do they have duplicates in my data record? And lastly, about stability. Is the data logically and structurally sound? So this is what the cactus framework is. So I'll just give a small example on why this cactus framework matters for your data quality. So many places where I go, my clients tell me, oh, we want to derive insights. I said, good, give me the data to derive insights. They say, here you go. Take this data, which is from 2015, and tell me the insights. I tell them, this is not timely. Why? I cannot use 2015 data to find out what's going to happen in 2025. So give me the data, if not on 2025, at least 2024 or 2023. This data is not timely. So overall, this cactus framework gives you a kind of guideline to validate the data set that's there to see whether you're good enough to start your analytics journey. So it's not like a Boolean. It's not like yes and no. I've done this practice thing, which Dr. Prashanth is saying, and I'm ready for analytics. But at least it gives you a starting point to pursue your analytics journey.
No, that's fantastic. And I can see why that would be a perpetual thing. Like you're saying, it's not just, you don't just check it off the list. This is something that sounds like you have to maintain and continue to do as the business grows. Is that right?
Oh, 100%. I like the word which you use, which is perpetual. Overall, data quality is not a one-time activity. It's an ongoing thing. I call it as a process. Don't treat this data quality exercise like a project where you are saying, once I do this, after 3 months, it's done. It is an ongoing exercise. It's like your health, for example. So you have to constantly keep updating yourself, eat good food, sleep well, exercise, and everything. So it's similar to that. It's a process, not a project. So I like the word which you use, which is perpetual. It's an ongoing initiative which is there as long as your business exists in the market.
Yeah. Um, So I know in relation to that, within the course, you're going to be talking about practical data wrangling and enrichment techniques. Can you maybe give us an example of a technique that can make immediate impact on analytics or AI results?
Yeah. So in this whole course, what I have done is in the interest of time, I've broken down data engineering into techniques into two major buckets. The first one is data wrangling, where you can apply some techniques on the existing data to improve its relevancy, usability, quality, so on and so forth. The second category of data engineering is about data enrichment, where how you can enrich the data which you already have and make it better for analytics and AI. So that's what I say. So data wrangling is on existing data. Data enrichment is on getting new data set. And within data wrangling, I think I will be talking about 6 techniques for my participants so that they get to know how to improve the quality of existing data. And in data enrichment, it is 4 techniques which I'll be talking about, which I'll be explaining or teaching for the participants. But in the interest of time and for this podcast interview, Andrew, I'll talk about one important technique, which is one of my favorite things, which is feature engineering. Feature engineering, which is a data enrichment technique, the second bucket which I talked, is to use the existing data, your domain knowledge, and little bit of common sense and create new data set. Oh my gosh. How are you able to do this, Prashant? This is amazing. So you're going to take existing data and give me new data. How does it happen? I'll give you a small example here. Let's take, for example, you have 2 existing attributes. One is the city, other is the zip code. So you take those 2 attributes, and now I'm going to derive a third attribute. What is that? State. So with the city and the zip code, I can see this city and zip code is in Alberta. This city with this zip code is in Florida. So I can get a new attribute called state and derive more insights to look at the revenue for my retail store based on different states. Oh, this is interesting. I'll give you one more example, which is the timestamp. Okay, so you sold this product on September 11th. Okay, 11th September, you sold this product. Great. So I have a timestamp for this item. So what I do, I derive additional attribute based on this timestamp. September, what can I get? Season. It is fall. Very good. That attribute I didn't have. Now I got it because I applied my common sense on the existing data. I can get one more attribute to this. What is it? In my business financial statements, we start our year on the 1st of April. So right now we are in the third quarter. So I'm going to put Q3 as the financial period. So now, did I have financial period earlier? No. So I used my domain knowledge, which tells me that my business financial period is Q3 right now. So I'm going to create one more attribute called financial period and put this sale of this pencil to be Q3. So initially, I just had one attribute called timestamp, the date at which the product is sold. So just by using one attribute, I created 2 more attributes. What are this? Season, number 2, which is the financial period. So you see that using existing data and a little bit of leadership and a little bit of common sense, and of course, business domain knowledge, I created new attributes as well. So in this course, I'll be talking about different techniques where you can look at the existing data and pull out some additional insights from this, from their metadata, from the unstructured data, so on and so forth, and create additional attributes. So Andy, many places where I go, people say, oh, we don't have data to do analytics and all those things. But remember, the data for analytics was the last thought they had while running the business. They have to run their business. They are running their business for operations and compliance. And now you need to come up with innovative ways, data engineering ways to create new data. So this is where I'm going to teach in this course, where to come up with plan B, where you can get new data set from existing data itself. And this is feature engineering is one of the techniques for for data enrichment. I'll talk about other 3 techniques as well. So remember, there are 6 techniques for data wrangling and 4 techniques for data enrichment. So this is what I'm going to teach in the course. Overall, 10 techniques to better engineer data so that you can enhance your analytics and AI solutions.
And I know in this course, you're also going to be addressing governance, ethics, and risk management. So my question is, why do these often get overlooked in the rush to build models? And how does your course help bring them to the front and center?
Yeah, so the great question, Andy. Like most of the places, most of the times, what happens is uh, people want to build. One is ignorance, other is the time and the cost pressures as well. So that's what I said. Education is the biggest enabler for change. If you don't know what you don't know, then you are completely ignorant about what's going to happen. So literacy or education, that's why TDWI is playing a big role here in educating the stakeholders to come up with holistic solutions is really important. First thing is lack of skills or lack of education. Next, number 2 is time pressures. So overall, in this course, what I am going to teach is not just about the techniques per se, but also how to use these techniques to build solutions ethically and responsibly. So it's not just about asking questions, can I build it, or what tools are required to build it. The question is, should we build it in a responsible and ethical way? So that's the course which I'm looking at. How to make my data, how to make the data set which is there, which is primarily captured for operations and compliance, AI ready. So that's where I teach how to make data relevant, how to curate the data, how to apply the Cactus framework, which I talked about data quality, how to apply the fair data model, which is another technique which I'll talk about, to make the data usable. Because just by having data, quality data in one place and not sharing it with your community is practically useless. You need to make the data available to the business. So that's where the fair data concepts come into the picture. And lastly, which I said, the ethical data, the ethical part of data, which is unbiased data as well. So that's what I'm talking about. So when I talk about the second part of it, I look at the whole thing holistically. Relevant data, curated data, Cactus data, fair data, ethical data.
Okay, so Prashanth, my last question for you is I know this is only one half of the coursework you're going to be teaching on this particular day, where we're, as we've discussed here, data engineering for analytics and AI. The second part is communicating insights, which I think is a very crucial secondary part. And I'm regretful that we don't have more time to spend on that topic as well. But perhaps you can give a little synopsis of what that course will do and why they're tied together.
Yeah. So, thanks, Andy, for giving an opportunity to talk about the second course. Uh, so today, when we talk about, everybody wants insights, and generally there is a perception that the insights today is correlated with data. That's true, but there is other 2 sources of insights as well today, which is, I call it as 3 major sources of insights. The first one is your intuition, your gut feeling. Like today, if you are thirsty, you don't need data to figure out why you're thirsty. It's just common sense. And what's the solution for this? Go drink water. So that's already known. So I'll give about 5 scenarios where intuition plays a big role, where you don't need data to get those kind of insights. The second scenario is analytics, where data comes into the picture, where you can derive insights as well. And I'll talk about three scenarios where you need data for deriving insights. And the subset of that is also about LLM, which is generative AI, where you're using ChatGPT, Gemini, and so on and so forth to derive those insights as well. Great. So each of these tools, each of these areas, intuition, analytics, and LLM, have their own pros and cons. And today in the ChatGPT world, the democratization of insights has played a very big role in how the insights is derived. Like a few years back, to apply predictive analytics, you need to know regression. Now, I don't really need to know regression. I cut paste the same thing in ChatGPT or upload this Excel file in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will tell me what is going to be the sales or in 2026. So basically, if you have access to ChatGPT, you can derive those insights as well. So now let's assume that there are 3 people in the room. One with an insight which talks about, based on his intuition or market knowledge, he says the revenue in 2026 is going to be $500 million. Now, there is one person who is an expert data scientist. He has used regression, and he says the revenue in 2026 is going to be $450 million. And now there is another person who has used the data set and applied it in ChatGPT, and he comes and says the revenue in 2026 is going to be $475 million. Now, each one is coming up with three different numbers. Now, in this case, whose number is right? And how do you communicate those insights to those stakeholders? So just because you use ChatGPT doesn't mean that your answers are reliable. Just because you are in the market you are in the industry for 10 years doesn't mean that your insights are reliable. You need to communicate these insights to the stakeholders in the right way so that those insights can be converted to decisions and those decisions can be converted to business outcomes. So that's what I'll be teaching in the second course, which is communicating insights, on how do you communicate insights to your stakeholders so that you can convert those insights into decisions for effective business outcomes. So this course is not about regression. So it's assuming that you already have these numbers, 400, 420, 450, 475, or 500. We'll not talk about how these numbers came about, but we'll go to the next part of it. How do you communicate these numbers which you have to your stakeholders and figure out which number actually wins? Is it 450, 475, or 500?
Well, that's fantastic. And of course, for information about these courses, I will go ahead and put a link in the description of this episode. So if you'd like to take a look, and of course, please register for TDWI Orlando so you can see Prashanth in person and gain all this extra knowledge and upskill yourself. Prashanth, it was an absolute pleasure talking with you today. Before I let you go, if someone listens or watches this episode and they're interested in reaching out, what would be the best way for them to get in contact with you?
The best way is LinkedIn. I'm pretty active in LinkedIn, and almost on a daily basis I share my thoughts on digital data analytics and AI, so that my people in my network can learn more. And I'm also open for feedback and thoughts from the community as well. So the best way to reach me is LinkedIn, and from there onwards we can have a Zoom call. I'll share my email ID and phone number, whatever. But to start the process, connect with me in LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again, Prashanth. It was an absolute pleasure talking with you today. I really appreciate it, and have a good rest of your day. Thanks again.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for your time and great questions. And looking forward to the TDWI Orlando sessions. I'm pretty excited.
To subscribe to the Speaking of Data podcast, or to learn more about TDWI's research and training on all things data management and analytics, visit tdwi.org or click the link in the description below. Thanks for tuning in.